All right, so we all know the housing market is hot and competition is stiff when you're buying. So is it out of line to write to the seller with an emotional appeal to help close the deal? The Wall Street Journal is reporting that some worry these sorts of love letters could lead to discriminatory practices. So are real estate love letters fair or are they problematic? Andrew, let's start with you.
As someone who's always calling everything problematic, I'm going to have to go with problematic, obviously. I think this sort of thing is like many sort of soft rules we have in society. It's just unfortunately an avenue for people's biases to show. It's a thing where in America, we had a practice called redlining and neighborhoods were segregated by, practices like bank loans and just people selling. And when you already have segregation, adding on people are more likely to sell to someone or find someone's story compelling when they look like them already. And that just perpetuates this practice. And, it's one of those things I think in Hollywood, we see it, or in the corporate world, it's like, you want to fit into a corporate culture and somehow your company is mostly white. Or, in Hollywood, it's people work on word of mouth and recommendations. And all of a sudden everyone, went to Harvard and therefore is probably mostly white. It's the thing that it's exactly how soft bias creeps in and becomes institutionalized. And yeah, I hate the practice. It shouldn't happen.
Well, Jabari, what do you think?
And Andrew, I agree with you 100%. I would say that historically there's been issues in America. He talked about redlining, but there's also been this thing called racial covenants, in which it was by law that it was put into the seller's agreement that the seller could not sell that house to someone of a minority. A minority representation. So this was actually something that is historically accurate and that this is based from. So I agree. I think that it can produce a soft bias, but I also believe that if we really wanted to address these issues, then I'm actually selling a property right now. And I know that on my offer sheet, I can see exactly who is making the offer. I can see the names. And I understand that if I see Jamal, or I see, Brendan, and I see, Muhammad, I kind of have an idea of who I'm selling the house to, and we all know that, the most times we give opportunities to people who look like us, people who are from the same social economic background. So if we're actually going to make a change, let's make a change with the offer sheet. If we really want to have a blind, fair process, we got to start there.
Wow. So would you be willing to take, I don't want to get into numbers, but you would take less in order to help get someone else ahead in the market?
No. Oh, yes, you're right. Let me address that first. It's all about the money. Yeah, you're right. So the truth is, it does not matter, when it comes to selling a home, it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background is. When you coming in $100,000 less than asking, I'm just not going to take it. You can write as many letters as you want to write. You can make it as sweet as you want to make it. It's not happening. So the truth is, the real color that matters, especially in this market, is green. But we have to address the historical bias.
Well, that's really interesting that you say that, Jabari, because, there were some examples that they cited where some of the offers were lower, but what made the difference were these love letters.
I will be very honest. I had never considered the soft bias, probably because of the way I look, and I would never have to. But I am that person who did write a love letter. I'm in my first home. I just purchased my first home. But my partner and I bid on about 10 others. And the one we lost out on, the real heartbreaker, we wrote a gorgeous love letter. And it was mostly just to address the historical nature of the home. It was a widow who was selling it. And we wanted to let her know that we weren't this couple that was going to come in and sort of tear everything apart and then flip it, that we were going to honor the home and honor the work that she had put into it. And we actually heard back from her via her realtor, and the realtor said, just so you know, like, she loved your letter so much. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. I think I'm a really good writer. But then he said, when you see why you didn't get it, you'll understand. And the next offer after us was $150,000 over. So to your point, Jabbar, like, money in this market, a letter is laughable. You know, it doesn't matter. But I will say, you guys have all been talking about historical practices and so on. But the problem of house appraisals is still huge, at least in America. There was that PBS story where a woman wanted to refinance her home so that she could help fix up her grandmother's home. And she sort of went online to get like a base price, and it was like $187,000. The first appraiser came in and appraised it at $125,000. She was like, that's weird. So she got a second appraiser. That came in at $110,000. She finally removed, quote unquote, all the blackness from her house and got a white friend to stand in. And that third appraisal came in at $259,000. And a number of studies have shown black homes are undervalued compared to white, and it results in a $165 billion loss for black homeowners. That's huge. Well, obviously.
Yeah. I think that, you know, it's a really good point in terms of historical bias, and then as you were talking about, Andrew, soft bias. Just listening to you talk about that, it reminded me of there's an area, a neighborhood in Vancouver, or not in Vancouver, but in British Columbia. It's called the Lower Mainland. It's in West Vancouver, and it's I think the wealthiest, if not one of the wealthiest postal codes in Canada. And historically, embedded into the titles and deeds of these properties, these homes, is a line that said, this home should never be sold to anyone of Asian or African descent. And the language is problematic because it was written back then, so they obviously didn't use terms that we use now, as you know. So, and it's taken a long time. Like, people over the years have tried to appeal to, you know, the Vancouver government and the BC government to have this language removed, because certainly there are people who are of Asian descent and people who are black who can now buy. They don't actually adhere to that line anymore. But it's still on the title of the property, right? And so it's kind of gross. Imagine if you are a Chinese family, friends, and you're able to afford that home, but you have this piece of paper that says that. And so, you know, that kind of thing might be eliminated eventually. But to your point, Andrew, it's being replaced by a soft kind of bias where, you know, these letters, again, it's like words, right? These words that are written, and they may not be as overt with the kinds of people we want in these neighborhoods, but it's still using words on pieces of paper, documented, to kind of keep your neighborhood a certain way. Anyway, for those of you who are interested in Vancouver, go Google it. You'll be able to find it no problem, and hopefully that problem will be taken care of.
Oh, I think, honestly, the other thing that's so funny in even what you were just saying with the racial covenant language is, like, we're talking about a fully racist law, and also we're worrying about, like, you know, the language that's used within it. It's like, yeah, the way they talk about people of, you know, black and Asian people in this case, gross, but also the law, disgusting. And the whole thing, it's just enshrined in the law. How could it not be racist?
And let's not even talk about lending practices, Andrew. That's a whole nother question, right? That's a whole nother topic.
Exactly.
Let's follow the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great conversation, guys. We've got to take a quick break, though, and we're going to be right back.